Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the October 17th, 2022 meeting of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. I'm Tom Packer, your president, and it's nice to see everybody here in the J room and online via Zoom as well. It's a beautiful, warm all day. About cool, but as usual, we'll start our meeting off with the invitation. Tommy, do you want to start? Thank you all for being here and welcome to Rotary this morning. If you bow your heads, say an invitation, and we'll follow up with our pledge. God of the universe, since we are not conscious enough to fathom your ebb and flow, help us to understand with our best efforts and know what we can. To love family and friends, to treat employees and fellow workers fairly, seek justice, to help those in need, to be the best that we can be. In particular, this week, we ask that you would be with the friends and families of those who were involved in the shooting here in Raleigh, and that tragic events like that would in the future be prevented when possible, and that those of us as Rotarians would spring into action if we're ever in a position to help anybody that's in those circumstances, that we would be led to be brave and be part of the solution forever in those situations. We likewise recognize and pray for the families of those who are shot or victims of homicide here in the state of North Carolina that are not related to a mass shooting, but that also deserve our reflections and our prayers. We ask that you be with us here at Rotary today, and that everything you would do in your service. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beautiful orange skies for and waves of rain, for mountains majesty of the fruited plain. America, America, God share his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. ROT, good job.
We're going to introduce our guests a little later too. Don't forget the red dimensional line set on the tables and some office money or any loose change, the small things that you have to support the dimensional lines in North Carolina, who were members of our club as well. Please be generous. And remember as well, Amazon Smile, combined with that, register, who smile, Amazon Smile, and club benefits. These are our upcoming meetings. Just to keep on your radar screen. We don't have we talk a lot, it's been kind of fun. And our own Kurt Warner, who's over here, will be speaking to us on November 7th, around Veterans Day. And then we have an interesting speaker the week after regarding an organization that helps farmers to hear more about it. And then at the end of the month, we have Jordan Bowler from Greater Angels, who will talk to us about talk amongst ourselves about politics with election coming up. But it's a nonpartisan talk on how to have constructive conversations about in the country today. What I wanted to get to though was to talk about next week's meeting at the Art Museum. So next Monday, we will not be here. We will be at the North Carolina Museum of Art. The invite for that meeting, which usually goes out on Tuesdays, will go out this afternoon.
And please pay close attention to it because it has a link to directions and access where to park and all that. And please respond to the e-bite by this Thursday at noon. So we have a head count. It's being catered by the museum. We're fortunate we have to give them a head count as to how many lunches to have available for us. We're really lucky to have the director of the museum talk to us as well, Valerie Jones, to speak to us. And then we have the curator of this special exhibit that showed last week, the Phillips collection. She'll talk to us and then leave a tour on anybody who wants to go through the collection. It's all in the same building, the East Building. I wanted to go show you before we move on one thing to inspire all of you in the meeting via Zoom and here. If you're thinking about whether or not to come to this meeting, it is really a chance to do something different for us, not just to have a speaker talk to us, but to engage with the arts and the wonderful collection that they have at the museum. Some of you with a certain vintage like me probably remember Mason Williams from the 1960s. Excellent acoustic guitar player. And he introduced one of his songs, Classical Gas, on the Sludge Brothers show in the late 1960s. It was a very controversial show back in the time. They took on a lot of social issues and whatnot. And this was a big hit back in the day. So I just want to get everybody a little bit psyched and inspired with art next Monday. So John, if you could play a 3-minute video, but it's really well done. So here we go, Mason Williams, Classical Gas. all true. I promise you, I'll get these ones when I see it. So anyway, see you next Monday, and please respond to email that goes out today. Let's go to our guests here today.
It's the year one.
What are your best on YouTube?
Swabs, just infections, and even hearing and memory.
There you go. Who's on YouTube too? Certainly, for guests today, I know, next, Rankin, Rankin, you come up and just, give us a couple words, introduce yourself and, what you do so the people on Zoom can see you. You can come up here and, introduce yourself. That'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Rankin Weller. I work for a nonprofit group called Middle Left Behind. We're a small group of mostly veterans that are working to get the Afghans that we work with out of Afghanistan, as well as other people who qualify out of Afghanistan and resettling here in the United States. I was most recently in Afghanistan in July 2020. So a lot of folks that I know and really waiting to find and we're trying to do our best to get them out. So really appreciate you all having me. And thank you.
Oh. And you'll see a picture of him later, but begin our introduce to the presence of Johnny Summer here today. It's nice to have you, sir. Welcome. And Adam, here again, as a guest, we want to just remind the people who weren't here before.
Hey everyone, Adam DeQuee with Sandler Training here in Raleigh, on the franchise here. So we do Salesforce development, not the Salesforce company. Salesforce games.
Great, thanks, Adam. Wait, I think that's it. So onward to the game time. Fine.
Yeah, in the middle of a cookie. Very good. Today's nosy neighbor. It's going to be Pete. Pete, come on up. You guys know, I hope I say your last name right. No, nobody said my last name. No, Ciccone. Ciccone? All right. Well, we went to Italy and found out we were saying it wrong. We said Ciccone. Our relatives were like, no, you're saying it wrong. Ciccone. We had to come back and say Ciccone, but it's like a little pretentious at this point. Very good, very good. We'll church it up as needed, okay? So, but today's nosy neighbor is Pete. Pete, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the work you do when you're not at Rotary, professionally, who are you? And then we'll kind of get into a couple of these questions.
All right, I am the founder and runner of Fearless Communications for a low voltage systems integrator, which is basically a lot of network cabling, hard access, CCTV, cell phone boosters, audiovisual systems, and probably 4 or 5 things more than I can think of right now. But I've been in this for 24 years, it's hard to believe. Operating here, based here, operating a lot of different places around the country with different clients, but most of our work's around here. It's a good market.
Awesome. Family?
Got a little boy who just turned 5, a little girl just turned 2, and my wife Jennifer and I have been married for 9 years in August. So, but originally from southwestern Pennsylvania. Yeah, Steelers. They won yesterday.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of Pennsylvania sports and enthusiasm. All right, Pete, let's get into some questions. Tell us about when did you narrowly escape danger?
Well, this story didn't really escape. About 18 years ago, buddies of mine went up the mountain snowboarding, got there Friday evening, a full weekend planned. So I take a few runs late at night. I was the last one on the mountain, nobody else out there. I went over this spine and it was solid ice. Went back like this with my elbows, landed. I felt something warm on the left side of my body. Trying to take an inventory, right hand here. My nerve said my left hand was right here, and it was not there. So I looked behind me, there it was. My arm right here. And there was nobody around. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta do this. Pulled it up, got it back in position, screamed like a little girl. And finally somebody found me. They got me down to the bottom, got me in the hospital. And the doctor said, I did not set the thing on the mountain right there. He said it was so much later I got to the hospital. He said you'd probably be taking her off. So I did kind of escape, I guess. I escaped with 2 arms. It was a little scary. I was a little more careful on the snowboard.
More than a little, yeah, more than a little. That's a bit different from some of the Alaska stories that we heard that were not quite as recent. How about craziest experience in your life?
Well, I was combining those into those 2 headings there. That was kind of the craziest experience in my life because I survived okay. The arm's still here. I didn't even need surgery straight. We put it together and it was kind of squeezing out of the cast. He goes, I think you're gonna be okay. All right, I guess we'll find out. But still here.
Ladies and gents, Pete, if you haven't gotten to know Pete, get up with him outside of the meeting, schedule some coffee, schedule some lunch. Linda is a volunteer, Andy. Go ahead, Linda.
Did this happen before you were married and then you left for this accident?
It was well before you.
I knew it.
Little bigger risk maybe. Pete, thank you for playing along with us this morning. Guys, Pete.
Then on to membership. Harrison Turner, our membership chair, can't be here today. He is in another banking school learning the ins and outs of commercial banking. So he's sends his regrets. I will fill in for him today. Again, if you know of anybody who you think would enjoy coming to the meeting or would be enjoy being a member of the club, let Harrison know, and please feel free to invite them to our meetings. Today, though, we have 2 first readings and 1 second reading. Richard Johnson, we met before, having his first reading today. Richard, come up here, please. And as you know, we have 2 meetings for each potential member, just a comment period, and deals everybody. And you met Richard before, but let me get Richard's first reading. Richard Johnson, sponsored by Braxton Wilson, is a native of Raleigh and serves as the director of development for the community music school. Prior to this, Richard served 16 years in the nonprofit industry, primarily with the Boy Scouts of America. And since returning to Raleigh in 2018, Richard has served as a development director for North Carolina Central University. And throughout his career, he's been responsible for fundraising activities that encompass annual giving, special events, capital campaigns, and private donations. While he was in Newport News, Virginia, Richard served as the president of the City Center of Newport News Rotary Club. And Richard and his wife Melody have 2 children. Malcolm and Lawrence, and are active members of the Lost Chapel Baptist Church. So please, again, welcome Richard. We'll have 1 more reading next time. And thank you very much. And then she couldn't be here today, but we're going to proceed with the first reading for Dr. Carolyn Parker. Who was at the last meeting, I think, before Columbus Day. But she has applied for membership, and this is her first reading. Dr. Carolyn Carter is sponsored by Mark Hackett, and she served as Vice President of Institutional Advancement, Marketing, and Communications at St. Augustine's University. Prior to this, Dr. Carter was the Chief Development Officer of Wayne County Community College District, one of the largest urban community colleges in Michigan. Elsa Silverman, if you're on Zoom, she is a fellow native Detroiter, so you'll be happy to hear that. And Karen also has a passion for historical research. She's a professional genealogist who encourages storytelling to learn about our ancestors' lives. She's a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and received her merit award from the National Genealogical Society, and received her doctoral degree in education from Kansas State. in community college leadership, and hold a Master's of Arts in History from American Public University, and a degree in instructional design from Ashford University. So we look forward to Carolyn being a member and having a second reading next week. And lastly, she's on vacation with her husband, so she couldn't be here, but she's attended 2 or 3 meetings already. Leslie All, you may recall. And this is just the second reading for Leslie. If you'll remember, Leslie joined the Rise Against Hunger organization in January of this year as National Director of Development here in Raleigh, and manages a team of fundraisers across the United States. And she was a Rotarian in Fort Worth, Texas. And we're excited to have Leslie join the club, hopefully by the next meeting. And again, any comments, questions by any candidates, please let Harrison know. Onward to service. Now, you want to say a few words about service. If you recall, last weekend we had a double header service project, and I found out this morning that we had Terry and Sarah Reeves and her projects, Schema, who was there as well. So that was great to come out on that. And this is the Phil this morning on, I'll put the slides up there on the step up.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. This past Saturday, 5 Rotarians met at Step Up Ministry. Pete, Carrie, Kevin, Jean-Luc, and Tiffany. Tiffany here today. We all met at 9 o'clock at the offices of Step Up Ministry. Step Up Ministry holds their programs at the White Memorial across the street, but there is an old house built in 1939 where they have their offices. And so our team power washed, we painted the front door, we painted the rocking chairs, and we organized their storage facility, and we took a bunch of trash, and we had some next generation Rotarians help us as well, as you can see. This is a wonderful project. We were there from about 9 until after 12:30. The program director was there to tell me that all of them. And, you know, he each told us all about the program, and we're really kind of making me reflect what's all said and done. You know, it's one thing, the aesthetics, what we accomplished, the outcome, you know, and probably when the folks came in today, they probably lifted morale. But the real outcome is we gave Step Up time. We probably gave them about 8 hours of time to fulfill their mission. And their mission is job training, employment, which, you know, breaks the cycle of poverty in the city. That's the big outcome overall. So it was a wonderful project. We love being a part of it in the future. And I want to thank again my fellow Rotarians for being there. Work was done, and they were great partners. They brought us coffee and donuts and really shared their program. So thank you again for the folks who were there. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank
you. You talk about the progress. Hello. So next week is our fundraiser. That's going to be on Thursday. We're really excited about everything going on. A bunch of people donating. Every little bit does help, and
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, we are super excited to go over to our partners City Club right across the street for our fundraiser. It'll be from 5:30 to 7:30 next week, benefiting our club. In polio now, and next week, I hope I can start as World Polio Awareness Week. What is the official? That's good. So great timing on that, and then the Gift of Life International. We have some wonderful sponsors already, so thank you guys so much who have sponsored. I'm gonna read y'all's names and companies off just a second. We also have some wonderful donations. We've got a beautiful self-care basket donated from Mary Moss that Linda just brought over, so that's gonna be one of our silent auction items. So far, we have sponsors, Mr. John Connell, who knows who's here today, but thank you so much, John. Larson Group, Eric Larson, Executive Coaching Company, Fearless Communications Incorporated, what Keith just spoke of, and Keith Chaconi, right? Yeah, thank you, Keith. Richard, thank you so much for sponsoring Papa Murphy's sponsorship. Jim Dorset, heard that he's going to be a sponsor, and then, a little bird, Tom Packer told me right before the meeting that Charlie Upshaw, you're gonna sponsor, so thank you so much. If you want to join those esteemed ranks, please come see me after the meeting or send me an email. Our silent auction items so far. Thank you so much, Juicy. He donated a $100 gift card to Piper's Tavern. Banner from Angus Farm, we have a $200 gift certificate they donated to the Angus Farm. Again, Richard, thank you. Papa Murphy's $100 gift card. Mary Moss, a beautiful self-care basket. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, a round of golf by our wonderful president, Tom Packer. This is probably way too dorky for Carolina. Is it CCQ, Carolina Country Club, CCC? Sure. No. Club with wonderful Tom Packer. Month of executive coaching by Eric Larson Group. My husband and I are going to put together a game night basket. We love board games and strategy games. And a culinary basket by Alfredo Trosinelli, and more is coming, more on the way. On your table, you will see another way that you can support this event, and that is through sponsoring a ticket. I've had a great opportunity to go and talk to the Southeast Raleigh Club during their meeting last week, a wonderful group of Rotarians. And it was brought up during the announcement that since we are focusing on young professionals, this cost $0.75 per ticket may be prohibitive of some younger professionals coming out. So if you would like to sponsor a ticket, we will not release names of those who are sponsored, but we would like to acknowledge this sponsoring. Please write your name down on that list. I'll follow up with y'all this week. We have some great professionals in civil engineering that are going to be there, so great networking opportunity. Some lawyers are going to be there, and Jim Dorset to be their bankers, so a lot of industries for potential young professionals and those that you think would be wonderful Rotarians. So please think about that. And I don't know, Juicy, do you have anything else?
No, I'm excited.
And he's the event MC, so I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have a little bit of help, hopefully, so from Kirk, and it's gonna be a good time. Drop that bomb on you real quick there, Kirk.
DC, where I'll be there.
Well, that's fine, then, I'm gonna carry the mantle well for you. But no, we're really excited, and hopefully we're definitely gonna reach a couple of goals that day, so it's gonna be great.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, guys. Right, so, even though it's a young professional networking and fundraising event, all you old professionals out there. Bring down the birthdays and what do you got? On the 19th, and Randy, I saw Randy here. Randy and Pam Fraser, 44-year anniversary, so congratulations with that. You know. Looking forward to the day of this trip. Congratulations, right? Congratulations to Pam. So I want to introduce our speaker for today. I have to admit that sometimes we find our speakers in different places, and I have a good friend who's a member of the hospital in Raleigh, and saw that our speaker who's not had spoken to them previously on the subject is going to speak to us today. They're going to be very well received and interesting part of our history. So I hope people the same way. Our speaker today is Bruce Miller, who is the historian for the Oakwood Cemetery here in Raleigh, from us. By way of brief background, Bruce was a history major at Dartmouth and received a master's at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then was involved in the education schools At Deerfield, as a teacher, at Deerfield, and then at Ravenscroft, school as well. And he also served in our Navy during the Vietnam War era as well. I know Bruce, my friend also goes back with Mary in the past. We had an event, I think several years ago, I think before my time, where we identified Rotarians who were buried in Oakwood. He may have to resurrect that someday. But today, Bruce is here to talk about a different topic. So please welcome Bruce Norquist.
Hello, Rotarians from Oakwood Cemetery. As Tom said, we've done several things with you. And I hope you all are aware that your founding father is an Oakwood. So the man Tyree, who is somebody today, is a tour guide's dream because he's such a colorful guy. He always is very popular on when his name appears on any of our tours. Tom, do you require you folks to go out and pay respects to family Tyree?
No, they know about him, but we haven't made it.
Anyway, well, it's good to be here. I must say, I am old enough, so you may be that old, to remember when that classical gas was first run on TV, but it was done in my history, right?
Right,
SpongeBob Parks. And the other speaker, the Afghanistan issue is something about it reminded me of what happened today. And it was,
remember, back is forward on the clicker, down is forward. Yeah.
yes, topic is Civil War today. As you probably know, Raleigh, far from any fighting during most of the war to the very end. But nevertheless, it's a very interesting Civil War history. And what I'm going to talk about today is sort of a sidebar to me. And since this is a cemetery talking about the Civil War, let's go straight to the cause. There are the numbers. If you're not familiar with them, I suspect you have a general idea. 620,000 military deaths, 360,000 Union, and 260,000 Confederate. You see the number of men engaged. It is said that if we had equivalent deaths today, with the population of the U.S. during the war was only about 34 million. If we had equivalent deaths today to what they experienced in the 1860s in this country, we would have to pick up the papers and read about 6 million dead. That is what this country had to deal with, the equivalent back in the 1860s. And Bruce Prowse asks the question that is derived from those numbers. Bruce Prowse, a historian at Harvard, in fact, the president of Harvard at the time, has written a wonderful book, This Republic of Suffering. And if this topic, that is the Civil War and Civil War deaths and how that was managed, it is a terrific book, This Republic of Suffering. What should be done with the body when you face a catastrophe like that? That's the topic. How's it affecting the quickly, I know I have limited time today, but during and after the war, two answers to that question emerged. That is, there were two ways that we dealt with what to do with the bodies. One was the federal answer. You see it officially in April 1866 when the U.S. Congress passed a resolution now, not a law, that said we're going to pass the law. That creates a national cemetery system to bury our dead. We're about a year after the war now, and they realize that there are thousands and thousands of combat deaths in shallow graves all over the eastern part of this country, east and southeast. What to do with the bodies? Well, that was the answer, but note the fine print. It's going to be for soldiers who died in the service of their country, and the country they have in mind was the United States of America and not the Confederate States of America. So that creates a problem. And the problem was answered. Moving to the next.
Pressing the down arrow,
Yeah.
pointer over here, should work.
Can you move now? Well, you just have to guess what we hear.
Whoops, there we go. Okay.
Can we go back to them?
Yeah.
Previous one? No, that one, that, on the left, what, okay. Two systems involved, next one on the left.
And then that's, there you
Okay,
Okay, very good.
Is this correct? Did you do it?
go. Yeah, so you start.
All right.
Yeah.
I am a low tech guy. In the South, we handle it a different way. And when you have a problem like that, who do you turn to? The women, that's exactly right. Yes, in May 1866, the women of Raleigh got together and created the Wayne County Ladies and Memorial Association, and that was happening all over the South. Towns all over the southern United States created LMAs to do what the government is promising that it won't do. That is to find a burial place for and to honor Confederate dead. And in fact, seeing the handwriting on the wall, so to speak, the LMA went to the Morgan family, the name of, I think, plantation family, and obtained land to carry out the objective. In February of 1867, Congress goes and he does what it said it was going to do and passed the National Cemetery Act, which created the national cemetery system that we have today. Don't remember the fine print. Well, it's no coincidence that in February of 1867, there was an Oakwood Confederate cemetery began. Note the parallel. They didn't just come, they just didn't do this on a whim. Now, understand, there was a place in Raleigh to bury Confederate dead during the war. Raleigh was a big hospital town. We had 3 Confederate hospitals in Raleigh, and one of those boys didn't make it. And they wound up in the cemetery that became our national cemetery. But because the U.S. government wanted that cemetery for the national cemetery system, they told the people of Raleigh, you have to remove the Confederates from that cemetery. And that began where they moved. Well, and you see the 2 systems today. You see evidence of those 2 systems today. That's the entryway to the National Cemetery, which used to be the hospital cemetery, and the archway, which is the entrance to the Oakwood Confederate Cemetery. You see the tombstone behind it. Problem solved, right? We have a beautiful Confederate cemetery, so far as I know, the largest Confederate cemetery in North Carolina. No issue. You might as well sit down, just because the problem is solved. What do we do with it? Now we know it. And to the extent that's true, except what happened. Gettysburg had it. And that created a great problem. Now, if this were a course of military history, the lines that would be important to us are the red and the blue. The red, of course, is General Lee, the Army of Northern Virginia moving north to Pennsylvania. The blue is, excuse me, the Army of the Potomac under General Meade, keeping itself between Lee and the capital city. Of course, Lee has two objectives in mind: a different angle on the capital. If they can capture the capital, the North will have to sue the peace, and he wants to feed his troops. So he goes into Pennsylvania, and of course, the 2 armies get to Gettysburg, and you know the story. So far as I know, at least what I think, the most significant battle ever fought in the Western Hemisphere. There may be some bigger ones in Latin America, but I think none more important And again, you know, the story very well. And numbers again. 160,000 troops engaged, 7,000 deaths. 3 days. Again, you can see it by Union and Confederate numbers. Wounded 33,000 men. And when both armies, after July 3rd, Lee headed south and Lee not pursuing him, which was a great strategic mistake. When both armies left Gettysburg, they left behind some 21,000 men too sick to travel. Are you absorbing these numbers? 21,000. In 150 field hospitals, both the north and the south, set up temporary hospitals around the battlefield to take care of the wounded during and after the battle. Over the next few weeks, they were able to move some 16,000 out of Gettysburg, but that left behind between 4,000 and 5,000 men. Much too sick to move. And they created what became known as Camp Letterman, named for the man who ran the medical division of the Union Army, set up Camp Letterman for those 4,000 to 5,000 men who were housed in these 40-man tents. Now picture yourself wounded, probably in pain, lying in a tent with 39 others in the same situation in the heat of a Pennsylvania summer. And what happens to these men when they die? What to do with the bodies? Well, if you're a Union soldier and you were lying in one of those field hospitals, in a grave, a shallow grave outside one of those field hospitals, or if you've been attempted to be nursed back to health in Lebanon Hospital, you would go in the hospital center. And very soon, if you're a Union soldier, you could go in the soldier cemetery at Gettysburg. Now, this is set up quickly after the war, and it began as a state and town project. That is, if that area of the United States had troops at Gettysburg, they would help to fund this burial ground for Union troops who died against. So, of course, it's the place that Lincoln spoke in November of '63. And it became a national cemetery, joined that national cemetery system in 1872. Some of you have seen it, I'm sure, but for those of you who haven't, this is Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address at Gettysburg. And of course, you can see it right there. Believe it or not. And I'm told, I can't confirm it, I'm told he had one Secret Service man never protected. Imagine that today. In this crowd. Times have changed. Anyway, if you're a Union soldier and died in Gettysburg during or after the battle, you have a place to go. The Gettysburg National Cemetery. There's a top line. There's a practice. So you probably didn't. But remember, if you're a Southerner who died at Gettysburg, and you were lying in one of those field hospital cemeteries, including the Lebanon Cemetery there, let's redo Faust's question. What should be done with the Confederate bodies at Gettysburg? That was a real problem. You couldn't go in the National Cemetery. You were way away from home. Remember, most battles during the Civil War fought in the South. So at least if your boy died in battle and was buried there, at least you knew he was in the South. But as it was, Southern families, in a way, it's like, how would you like it if your boy were buried in Vietnam now? How would you like it if, well, going way back, if somehow your son wound up buried in North Korea? Not a happy thought. And it was not a happy thought to Southerners at the time. Robert E. Lee, I think, got a lot of letters saying, I can get my boy home, he's in Yankee soil. And he didn't know what to do. I like this letter because it sort of puts lipstick on a pig, if you will. It agrees me to say that I know of no way of recovering the body of your son. I don't know how to get him home. You know, he said, but, he said, I know of no more fitting resting place for a brave soldier than the battlefield in which he laid down his life. He says, I can't help you, but think of it this way. I think the people in the South thank the heavens for this man. Dr. Rufus Weaver, he was from Gettysburg, grew up in Gettysburg, went to school in Gettysburg, what's now Gettysburg College. He was then at Pennsylvania College, got his MD degree, and wound up teaching anatomy and taking more courses in Philadelphia. And it turns out that his father, Samuel, who was a photographer in Gettysburg, had been hired by the United States government to go around and disinter dead U.S. soldiers to put in the National Cemetery. That was his job. That became his job. So the contract was well, and in fact, while he was doing it, I think he may have been doing it contrary to instructions, he kept them out. But where Confederates were buried, that he had discovered. I think he really did it because he was under instructions that no Confederate by God should get in that national cemetery. So he wanted to make sure he knew where the Confederates were and that they stayed there. But at least he knew where they were. Unfortunately, Samuel died in a train wreck. But somehow, I don't know, the LMAs in the South heard of Rufus Weaver, his son. They implored him to take over his father's job. Please continue to look for Confederate death. And he did. He left his work in Philadelphia, came home, and began to search for, disinter, and send Confederate bodies south. He sent 74 to the LMA in Charleston. He sent 101 to Savannah. He sent 137 to Raleigh. And he sent 3,000 to Richmond. And he tried very hard to identify each person, not just who it was, it wasn't just a matter. He wanted the name as well as he could identify the person. They didn't just send corpses now. And this is Oakwood's Gettysburg section. And we'll come back to that in a minute. I'd like to just finish a bit with Rufus Weaver. Here he is in 1950. He became world famous. Not for what he did at Gettysburg, but for what he did in anatomy. Here is with Hattie. He may have been his best friend, I don't know. Certainly the man who made his reputation. Hattie was a black custodian, and when she died unclaimed. Either the story say she either died unclaimed or willed the body to med school. But that's where it wound up. And what did Weaver do with it? He separated, that's not a skeleton you're looking at. That's Hattie's nervous system. That's your nervous system. And he did, in fact, the eyes. He was able to paint afterwards. He painted the nerves from eyes to the back of the brain. Incredible work, made him world famous. Here he is in one of his classes later on. Here he is down here with his students there in the anatomy class. Anyway, back to his work with Confederacy. He sent those 3,000 remains to the Hollywood Cemetery. If you've been to Richmond, you've probably been to Hollywood Cemetery, because it's full of Confederates. If you're in the street at all, I suspect you've been there. There was a problem for him in two ways. One, they couldn't pay him. He did charge $3.25 for each body in the South. That doesn't sound like much. Multiply times what, roughly 40 times to get a sense of what the price might have been. But the women in Richmond couldn't pay him. It nearly bankrupted them. And the other thing The other thing that I know frustrated him, he sent so many to Richmond, they couldn't handle them. So he'd taken so much trouble to identify each body individually by name, and the women in Richmond simply couldn't handle 3,000, so they buried them in us. In mass graves, unidentified, no single gravestone. You see, you can see here, this is a mound, sort of a mound of dirt, which you can't identify who's there. So I know that was a disappointment. In Raleigh, this plaque of this stone went up, and it tells the story. It tells Lucas Weaver's story. If you look down at the bottom of that, there's no good at this clip with my home. Down at the bottom, Wake County Ladies Memorial Association, in cooperation with Dr. Lucas Weaver, they give them full credit for this work on their behalf. I'm watching my time.
5 minutes.
Okay, very quickly, this is the last two rows in the Gettysburg section. All these are deaths from Veteran Hospital. We took them from the hospital cemetery, sent them south. And I set aside a few of the stories. I know I don't have time. Henry Curtin, though, somewhat unique. He's one of 4 brothers. He died at Veteran Hospital. He's one of 4 brothers who lost their lives in the result of Gettysburg. In Chatham County, 2 on the battlefield, 1 taken prisoner and died at a prison camp in Maryland, and Henry Curtin died in Veteran Hospital. 9 wounds. 1st of September, he lay in that tent for almost 2 months. And let's look at that. I did want to mention this fellow, Iowa Michigan Royster. If you've been in Raleigh, you know the name Royster because of their first names, state names. They're famous for it. Iowa, long story, very short. As student at UNC, he signed up for the Confederate Army, died in Pickett's Charge at Gettysburg for the high watermark of the Confederacy. And his brother, Arkansas Delaware Royster, another name, somebody you know, wrote to Dr. Weaver, and I don't have his letter, but I have Weaver's response. I was going to read you some of it. Weaver, with all he was busy doing, I have trouble writing a 4-sentence email. He wrote him a 4-page letter back to Arkansas Delaware Royster, and said, among many things, don't work. This is 1871 now. Remember, Iowa dies in 1863. There's not much left. And in a gentle way, Dr. Weaver tries to comfort Arkansas Delaware, and he says, don't, by the way, don't worry about your brother Iowa. I have him here in my house. He disinterred Iowa after what, 8 years. He said, I have a little piece of the blanket that he was wrapped in, and I have some of this paper, and I have cleaned it for you. So you have something clean to remember. That's Dr. Weaver's speaking. And again, I don't have time to finish up, but I think that's about just some mistakes made and others that came down from Gettysburg. But I did want to leave 2 minutes anyway for any questions. So it relates to anybody, sir.
A couple. The first one is, I want to be clear, you have a picture of the National Cemetery, there's a Union Cemetery. Is that in Raleigh or is that? Oh, yes. We have a National Cemetery. Where is that? Without the on.
Bruce, can you speak to the mic?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the Department of Motor Vehicles out east of town, what's the big? Rock Quarry Road. Yes, it's about 8 acres. The nice thing about our, well, many nice things about our national cemetery, very typical of the earliest national cemetery. Now, the biggest national cemetery is over 1,200 acres. Raleigh's national cemetery is 8. You see what's happening. That's the accumulation of what do we do with the bodies.
And then the other questions that we talked about for the Union soldiers, Confederate soldiers, how were slaves there? Where were slaves there? Were there any slaves there?
Not that I know of. There may be one named Emmeline, who had been a slave. She wasn't buried as a slave. Remember, Oakwood was only chartered in 1869. So it wasn't during the slave years after emancipation. But I think we have one who probably was, but no, not many. And how they were buried, I suspect that wasn't really a military question, even though the U.S. Army did have black units, and I suspect that they may have been treated the same way. That's a good question. Sir.
How you doing? My name is Corey. Thanks for coming. My question is, what was the process of identifying the body?
That's a good question, and that's probably the most common question. The U.S. Army didn't issue dog tags till the First World War. It seems that's strange, doesn't it? There were a variety of ways. It was unanimous for one thing, and if there were any hospital records at all, in the field hospital or airmen, you might have been able to tell, if not by name, then by treatment. Wounds were treated different ways. If you were shot in the stomach, you were probably treated at all because you just couldn't die. If you were shot in the limb, you had a good chance of living, but that would help you identify people. In those days, there were sutlers. Sutlers was a salesman who followed the army and selling his stuff. And one of the things that was sold to troops, I excluded those armies, was a little pin badge. You could scratch your name into that badge and put it on the blouse of your uniform or in the pocket, or your family Bible, the Bible that you carried, which was true in those days. Often signed with the biographical information, and it could be a clue. You'd probably be very good for sure. Or common technique that all the soldiers used was to give information to a buddy. That's how we know about person. The one of the 4 brothers to die. So that if one of them lives, he can fill in for the other. So there are different ways to do it, and yet I agree with what I think you're thinking. That's an amazing feat, right? Well, I don't know why anybody. So, yeah. We don't allow the Confederate tombstones to be. We have an example of that right here. We actually have 2 Union soldiers in the Confederate cemetery. It was a mistake. As good as he was, even Dr. Weaver wasn't perfect. Yes. If you go to Arlington or whatever, you're going to see nicely round the top stones. If you go to the Confederate cemetery, you're going to see a point. And the story is that that's so that no Yankee would ever sit on it.
One more question. Yeah, John, just touch on Colonel Henry Berglund.
Well, yeah, he was not sent down by this is the boy Colonel. And again, I'm waiting. He was sent down to Gettysburg by his men, not by yes, when the boy Colonel, 22 years old, commanded General Lee's largest regiment. The most men lost in any single day of fighting on either side in the entire Civil War. Almost his whole regiment. And a great, in Southern eyes, a great hero.
Where'd you get it, Kyle?
I was his teacher.
Jackson.
Who else? Oh,
Yeah, the green about it. Thank you very much.
Before you go, this is epic stuff. As a token of our appreciation, and we enjoyed your talk very much. History is still live. Thank you very much.
We know before we go on to the 4-way test. Very good. Just wanted to give a hand, if you would, to John Luke for handling the audio visual today. Okay, so, you please stand to the doorway, test. Saying, is it true? Is it a small concern? Will the bill better friendships will be beneficial on all concerned. Can you turn? Thank you. Everybody.